Hey guys, Jared James here, and I want to talk to you today about being a professional realtor, not just an amateur realtor, because pros practice. I want to talk to you about overcoming a couple of different objections that happen to come our way that sometimes can get us stuck. You know, a lot of times when I look at realtors and you look at real estate people, they're usually a certain personality type. They're usually people, that are good with dealing with other people. They're good at talking. And that can be a catch-22. That's good for our industry. But at the same time, what happens is we wing it a lot. We go into appointments and we talk to people on the phone and we're winging it. But what happens is if you're not practicing what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, what you're supposed to say, how to change the question, how to get in the right question, what really happens is in many cases you cost yourself money. You might get away with it in the short term, but sometimes it's going to cost you money. Yeah, I was watching football the other night, and I'm watching these professional football players, and they're playing their 60 minutes of game time, and these are pros. And a thought went into my head, and I went, what were they doing the last 3 months every day? They were practicing. Now, is it because they don't know how to throw and catch a football? They don't know how to no, it's because they're professionals. Do you practice? Are you a pro or are we an amateur? Because let's face it, there's a lot of amateur realtors running around, and if you want to have a heads up on them, if you want to have some kind of an advantage on them, you want to practice. You know, we had a question from one of our students recently, and they asked me, they said, I've been trying to get in with this builder for 5 years, and I've been, just contacting him, doing whatever, and after 5 years, he finally invited me in for an interview. And it was this big thing because this is the opportunity to get a lot of listings. He's probably going to do 20 new construction listings in the next 12 months, and I go and I meet with him. And I tell him all the stuff I would say, and I say, look, I've got people for your place, and then he stops and he asks her this question, and he says, well, if you've got all these buyers for my place, how come you haven't brought anybody through? And she said she completely just was kind of, and just looked foolish because she didn't have an answer. You know why? Because she didn't practice. There's a three-step process that you always go through whenever you're dealing with a prospect, dealing with a client, whatever it may be. And those 3 steps are this, okay? You ultimately want to understand where they're coming from, what they're saying. You want to relate to them, and then you want to educate them. So you want to understand, you want to relate, and you want to educate. So I said to this lady, I said, here's what you want to do. You want to say back to the potential seller, this builder, you want to say, I can understand why you would ask that question. That makes a lot of sense. And then you relate. And you say, if I was in your position, I'd probably have the same question. But now's the key point, and that's when you educate. You can't be afraid to educate because they're paying you because you're supposed to be the professional. You're supposed to know more than them. You're supposed to. And the truth was that builder was asking the wrong question. And so what I would have done is I would have said, I can understand why you'd ask that. In fact, if I were in your position, I'd probably ask the same question. That's a great question. But the truth is, and this is when you educate, and I'd say the truth is, in order to catch the mice, you've got to have the cheese. And your house, your houses, your new construction is the cheese, and that's what brings the buyers in, which are the mice. And so anybody who has the cheese is going to catch the mice. I mean, if you throw chum in the water, sharks are going to come. It doesn't matter who sends it. But the question is not, how come I haven't had more people? Because I haven't had the cheese in order to catch the mice. The question is, because 80% of all sales are done on the 5th through 12th contact. So the question is, who has the systems in place, who has the stick-to-itiveness, if you want to call it that, to really stick with it with these potential buyers, with these potential people, to get through that, to that 5th through 12th contact, because 90+% of agents never even get there. The real question is, who has the systems in place, the process in place, the follow-up to actually stick with them, to take those people who might have been buyers but fall off, but now they actually stay with and become a buyer because of what I do to follow up. Because that builder was asking the wrong question. It wasn't, how come you haven't brought people through? It was, what are you going to do with the people when they come through? Because the cheese is there, which is going to attract the mice. And so if that was an educated realtor, if that was a realtor that understood that process, to understand, to relate, and then to educate, they would have known that the builder was asking the wrong question. And their job as a professional is to educate that person and say, that's the wrong question, here's how it works, and educate them. And I bet that builder would have had a lot more respect for that realtor and would have felt educated, and as a result, that realtor right there lost 20 potential new construction listings within a given year, which were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't let that be you guys. Are you a professional realtor or are you an amateur realtor? Because anyone who's a pro, they practice. Have a great day, guys. I hope we're connected. Facebook, Twitter, these other places. I'll talk to you soon.